Where's the?
Huh?
You want to show the video?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I put lipstick on even. Remember, so I have 2 lips.
Can you turn that up a little bit?
Jesse's. Should we wear masks? Jesse's waiting.
Should we- and my slide, by the way. I don't have time to use.
Okay.
I can do
Oh, look.
Hello.
Can you say hi?
Hello. Hi.
Voila.
All right. Oh, that's not unexpected. Zoom folks, can you hear okay?
Here you are. That's the finish.
I don't know why this is here.
Do a quick sound check. Zoom folks, can you hear okay? Give me a thumbs up. Fantastic. We're doing new things.
You can see the whole,
Okay, Jeff, are we ready? Everybody?
Yeah.
Have those?
I closed the video part. I would plug in here, you wouldn't be able to hear it in here, but maybe you don't.
I think I've got it.
There we go. Okay. Okay, we ready to call the meeting order? Did everybody get the informational packets, the semi-annual meeting packets that wants to use one? Good. Thumbs up. Everybody's got one? Okay. Yeah, ready?
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to call the semi-annual budget meeting to order. The first line item on our agenda is the approval of the July minutes. Do I have, does anyone have any questions, discussions, or? All right. Motion to have a second? So seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the pastor's report.
Whew. All right, sorry, it's been a day. And this is the first time doing this, so you guys can still hear good, right? Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm vaguely facing the live stream stuff, if that wasn't unclear. So just FYI, we've got people that are tuning in via Zoom, which is a fantastic thing. And at some point, I hope to have a little bit more permanent setup. But this works. So Mike Hagel, who is our treasurer, is also tuning in via Zoom. They have a COVID exposure. They also they didn't want to risk being here, but he can participate and answer any questions. I'll be just doing the run through of the treasurer's report and the budget presentation when we get to that. But for the time being, Mike is here virtually. Okay, so first question, did you all get the, well, first of all, did you all either get an opportunity to watch the State of the Church address from 2 or 3 weeks ago? And or did you get a chance to read through my pastor's report, at least a little bit? So the pastor's report is bullet points of what I talked about in the State of the Church address. And I understand that accessing YouTube for some folks is not a doable thing, so I apologize for anybody. I didn't get to watch that video. At some point, I could try to facilitate a watching party in here, although that would be weird for me to watch myself talking to you all about it. But the report that you have in the semi-annual minutes is the bullet points. So I'm just gonna hit the highlights of a few of those things, and then there'll be a quick Q&A if you have any questions of me, and then we'll get to the treasurer's report and budget approval for 2022. So big things going into 2022 is I expect, and knock on wood, that this cycle of having to close down and open back up again is at an end. I just looking forward at information coming out of the CDC, but then also just kind of the way that states and federal agencies are talking about it. We pretty much got a handle on how these things are going to go going forward. So the need to respond to a variant in the same manner, hopefully, is at an end. But then again, you make promises about these things and then you immediately write it. So one of the things that I've been looking at in 2022 and going forward is essentially a community rebuilding, right? So we've spent 2 years in varying forms of COVID response that looked like, way back at the beginning, me just recording sermons every week, and then it turned into something that kind of resembled a recorded worship, and then eventually, recording whole liturgies. We did that. And then we were back in person last summer and fall for a good amount of time. And then, we just spent, what was it, four more weeks in COVID response. So one of the results is that over these past 2 years, I think that, and I'm hopefully not the only one here, I felt somewhat disconnected from the congregation as a whole, which is to be expected, right? One of the primary ways that we are a community is we gather as a community on a weekly basis. And any form of virtual, no matter what it is never going to be the same. And as a result, I feel like there are people who have become disconnected. I think all of us, to a greater or lesser degree, have felt, that we miss church. And in my conversations with all of y'all, you have articulated that you have felt like you have had the same experience of church that you long for and rely on. So one of the things that I want to do this year is try to rebuild some of those broken connections, but then also return to some form of what things look like pre-COVID. So on the concrete grounds, what that means is starting up a lot of the things that we have going. So I already mentioned this morning that I'm going to be starting doing Wednesday morning prayer services again. So what we were doing was 9:30 a.m. Prayer service, 10 a.m. Bible study. I intend to start that back up again in Lent. One of the other things that I want to do, and I need to kind of like figure out my plans for it and need to do some more footwork, is I want to offer that same thing at the Springs. So perhaps what we'll end up doing is alternating. One Wednesday will be here, one Wednesday will be at the Springs, but essentially most of the folks that would attend that Wednesday morning service are coming from potentially one of the retirement homes anyways. So why do it here and make you come here when I can just go there, if that makes sense. But like I said, I've got a few logistical issues that I've got to figure out with regards to that yet, but that's one of the plans. We're starting up Lent per normal, so there'll be Wednesday evening services. Now, one of the things, and I'd be curious to get feedback from all of y'all, is I'm flirting with the idea of instead of doing 7 p.m. service, doing something a little closer to daylight, so potentially like a 5 p.m. service. Now, one of the risks of that is that would be right around rush hour, but I don't know how many of you would be commuting where that would be a risk. One of the benefits is that with our aging community, and I've paid attention over the last 10 years, the folks that tend to come to our Lenten evening services don't really have day gigs that they got to worry about. So a 5 p.m. wouldn't be out of the question, and we would have plenty of daylight, and we could have that. It's an idea. We can do 7 p.m. I'm okay with that. It's just something that I was tossing around. We won't be doing soup suppers this year. We're still too close to COVID for that. Now, the language that we're hearing from the state, and you probably all read about it, is that they're currently planning to end the mask mandates by the end of March. I'll believe that when I see it, but that's been the language that's coming out of the state agencies. So at some point, we as a community are going to have to decide what that means for us. Do we end the mask mandates for inside of church? Do we recommend masks? What do we do that way? But I suspect that around that time as well, we'll be able to return to communion per, cups and bread, and we can stop ordering the individual packets, which we love so much, right? You're all going to be super sad to see those go. I'm gonna miss the sweet sounds of tinkling plastic as you all desperately try to open those before I finish the words of institution. But yeah, and by the way, going forward, we're gonna have to do things a little bit differently still, right? So when we do community going forward, we're probably gonna have requirements for anybody that's a community server to be masked and to potentially be wearing gloves of some sort, right? Just, welcome to the new world, folks. And of course, things that we'll have to pay attention to going forward as well is that, kind of the same rules will apply. If you're feeling sick, don't come to church. I mean, I would love to see you, but at this point in the game, it's just kind of the way things are. So Lenten services are going to be starting back up again. We're going to have Ash Wednesday service. One of the things that we're going to be doing is Linda and I are going to be doing drive-through ashes. So it's going to occur between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. You can drive through up there and we'll reach through your window and get a car too if you want. We'll do the institution of the ashes on your forehead. And from noonish to 12:30ish at some point, I'll be going over to the springs and doing ashes there as well too. So you don't need to drive over here. You can do them there, especially for folks that won't be able to come out for the Ash Wednesday evening service. We will still have the Ash Wednesday service. And again, I'm toying with 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. And I'm intending to send out a poll to folks to see if that's a good move or not. And then hopefully, again, fingers crossed, we'll have Holy Week again this year for the first time in 3 years. We'll have a Monday, Thursday service, and a Good Friday service, and an Easter morning service. And right now, one of the big questions is, do we have 2 services Easter morning, or do we have 1? That's the other thing I'm looking at as well too. And I just had a conversation with Kit about this, is that I fully intend to, at some point in March or April, return to 2 services. Right now, I don't know if we have the attendance numbers to justify that, but I don't want to give it up. That was one of the things that I put a lot of work into when I got here, was kind of creating 2 very distinct worship styles, and we're currently budgeting for 2 musicians, 2 accompanist for 2022. I want to give it one more go, right? I want to see if we can create those 2 worship styles and return to some form of the attendance that we had pre-COVID. One of the ideas that I'm toying around with is sticking with the 10 a.m. time for the traditional service and potentially moving the day and time of the contemporary service, is doing like a midweek service of some type. This is all a work in progress, and it's kind of going from 0 to 60 to a certain extent, but it's an idea that I've been tossing around for a while, and something that I want to do. Kids and youth stuff. So we've got a couple of kids that are now nearing the age where confirmation might be a viable idea again. And I'm going to talk with the individual families about if they want to do something like that. But one of the things that I've been thinking about over these past couple of years of quarantine is we were doing a great Sunday school program before COVID shut down, where that was happening during the 11 o'clock service. And I would love to do that again, and perhaps we will restart something that's happening during one of the services. I want to focus the youth stuff on something which we did in Fort Wayne. I don't know why I never really shifted it over here. And I was kind of looking back and wondering, why did I never bring that up? I don't know. But one of the things that we did in Fort Wayne, which I really love, is that one of the big emphases of the youth program was service. So our junior high kids, you know what they did? They went out and fed the homeless on Wednesday evenings. They were the ones that staffed a lot of our outreach programs. And so whatever our youth program looks like going forward, this is going to be a core part of what it looks like, is teaching our young people what it means to literally be a Christian, in addition to what it means to believe as a Christian, right? Is how do we put our faith into action? And coincidentally and conveniently, we have an amazing outreach program which has numerous opportunities to plug into service ministry. And so that's going to be something that I'm going to be working on this year with our families, with kids. So that's something that I look forward to. The other thing, and this bears no importance to most all of y'all, is I want to do a world revisions class with our youth. It's something I did with you all. I don't know why we never put a big emphasis on it, but I would love to to teach our kids what it looks like to be a Christian in 2022, where you've probably got friends that are Jewish and friends that are Muslim and friends that are atheists and friends that are, Jains, who knows, right? Who knows what the picture looks like at your schools, but it would be great to be able to learn, about those things rather than just making assumptions about our friends. And like maybe, our kids have things to teach me about those things as well too. So that's going to be another focus. Of course, in addition to all of the fun stuff like learning about the Bible, Lutheran theology, or great stuff. I think those are most of the bullet points that were in the thing. Anything that I missed in there, or any questions about anything at all, anything that you are longing for in 2022? And Zoom folks, if you have any questions, can you put them in the chat? Because I'm not going to be able to hear you all that well through the speakers that I have set up here. But if you do have any questions, put them in the chat and I'll get them. Any questions that you all have? Laura. Yes, okay, that's what I usually meant. This is a permanent fixture now. So we've already invested some money in making the sound work, which I don't know what happened this morning. I think I did something wrong. I would love to blame it on the machinery, but I think I messed something up when I said it this morning. But we're looking to invest more money in a permanent camera system to go in the sanctuary. Because right now I'm just using my cell phone camera, right? Which it works, but you can only see me and the pianist, and it's not that great quality. So I want to be able to invest in some kind of camera system to go in there. We've already done a little bit of looking into it. There are various options out there for like conferencing cameras, which will actually allow the user to kind of pan around the room. But those are a pretty significant investment. And the problem that we have with everything in that space is it's so long that we probably have to mount one of those cameras from the ceiling somehow, or figure out something, because we can't have it, unfortunately, mounted back in the choir loft and expect to get any real resolution. But yes, absolutely everything. So worship services, including Wednesday evening, anything, even special worship services, are going to be live streamed in some format. Business meetings like this will have Zoom and live streaming participation going forward. Council meetings over the last couple of years have all been virtual. It's been one of the best things that ever happened. We get near perfect council attendance for everyone. We don't have to worry about, well, no, we still have to worry about commuting sometimes, because traffic on Thursdays is a pain in the butt no matter how late we're coming in. But it's great, and we can all sit at home in our pajamas, drink a glass of wine during the council meeting. This is why things are so messed up, by the way. No, I'm joking. No, so yeah, virtual option is going to be a permanent fixture going forward. Okay, looks like we got a question in the chat. Please repeat questions for Zoom and YouTube. So good reminder. The question was, will there be virtual options for worship and everything else going forward? Thanks, Dennis. Beth. Yes, come on. Oh, you want to? Yeah.
I didn't know if you were.
Do your thing. Yeah, I'm
So
done.
I'm doing my endowment board hat. Okay, the endowment board hat is on. I apologize. The report did not make it into any of the materials that went online. I will send them to Jesse so they can go online late. It's just to let you know that the endowment board was still functional during this period. We gave away money as detailed on your sheet to total $8,450. And then the endowment board also oversees the scholarship monies. It's not part of the endowment board, but it found a home with us. And there were $2,000 given in scholarships for this year. The information is detailed on these 2 pages. The other question or thing we need to vote on while I have you here is that we want to thank our exiting board member, Jim Ruskell, and Kari Liebert has agreed to come on the endowment board. So I don't know when you vote for that. Can we vote for that next time?
I think we just have to have a motion.
Can I have a motion to elect Kari Liebert to the endowment board?
Motion by Lana, second by
Laura Schroeder. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Kari, welcome to the endowment board.
Yay.
Does anybody have any endowment board or scholarship questions for me? Because I know we kind of, especially with COVID, we've been operating on the down low. We had 2 scholarships given out this year. That was exciting. And as I said, we have been able to provide some emergency relief funds. Okay.
Thank
That's all I
you.
got.
All right. Any questions from Zoom? No. Yeah, it's when we make motions, can you just say your name, so that our secretary can record that information? Okay, the pastor's report requires no approval, so we're gonna move on to the treasurer's report for 2021, and then approval, or presentation of the budget for 2022. In your budget packets, you should have a page that has an executive summary, which has some wonderful notes. Thank you very much, Mike Cagle, for putting that together. Covering, it's just kind of a recap of things for 2021, but also it is bullet points of the thoughts that went into the budget for 2022. So one of the things right off the bat is that, first of all, thank you to all of you for your generosity. We came out in the black again this year. And one of the things that we commented on is over the past 5 years trending is there's more of a dip every summer and more of a high every winter. So, and there's many reasons for this potentially, but as a result, we get these periods of anxiety come about July, September, or October. And then when all the money comes in at the end of the year, we're shocked because we came out in the black, which whatever, you know, I've got high blood pressure, it's hereditary. Feel free. One of the things though that we looked at in putting together the budget for 2022 is that the last 2 years we came out in the black because our expenses were also much lower than projected, right? Going into 2022 and forward, again, knock on wood, we won't be doing virtual stuff anymore, which is the primary reasons that our expenses are lower, right? We're not in the building as much, so we use less heat, we use less electricity, we just use less utilities in general, right? So putting together a budget for the year to come, expecting that we're going to be in the building for the whole year, doing things as normally as we possibly can, we can expect that a lot of those expenses are going to go back towards where they were before. So to continue to budget, hoping that the expenses are going to go isn't a sustainable thing. So right off the bat, we reduced the overall projected income to match what the income has been for the last 2 years, which we put at, what was it, 258,000. Previous budget giving was around 267,000. So we reduced that to something that seemed more sustainable and more in line with giving as it has been. So that's an important part about sustainability going forward. Any questions about that right off the bat? Okay, great. Here's other couple of detail items which I want to bring to your attention because they're important, and I promise I'll try to keep this as short as possible. So Stephanie, who is here, hey Stephanie, who is probably sick of me by now, but has been fantastic. Stephanie, as you know, has been renting a corner property. She's going to continue to do so. Stephanie this year took on the janitorial contract. Our original intent was to do it in kind. The IRS won't let us do that. we can't just give her the house rent free in exchange for doing the janitorial services. We have to show income from the rental property, and then we have to unfortunately tax Stephanie for the money that we then pay her. So what we ended up doing was increasing her salary to match the amount that she would essentially be paying in rent. Now, just one of the things that I want to say is, first of all, thank you, Stephanie, very much for agreeing to take that on, and has done a wonderful job. One of the things about Stephanie's roles here is she has many of them currently. So she is doing the admin work, she is doing the outreach work, and now she is filling the janitorial contract. I would encourage the congregation to do some siloing to an extent, and in understanding, that behaved towards Stephanie as if we had a janitor, and we had an admin, and we had an outreach person. Because there's a temptation, I think, sometimes to roll all those things into one ball and to dump everything in her lap on Monday morning, which is overwhelming. Additionally, she would love it if you pointed out things that maybe need to be cleaned, but do it nicely. You now have a direct line of communication with the person that's doing her janitorial work. Let's not drive her out of the job in the first year that she does it. So that's just my little addition to it. But so we tried as best as we could to reflect that in the budget, what's going on with that work. And of course, my window closed on me. So what else? That one's the same. I'm just looking to see if there are any other bullet points I want to get. So we staff salaries all went up according to the Senate guideline, increase of 4.2%. Just one more thing that I wanted to mention that is worth talking about is that you might notice that we actually decreased the outreach budget for this year. The reason we were able to do that is because outreach brought in so much money over the past 2 years. So Stephanie has been organizing many fundraisers through Facebook and through other means. We've just been doing kind of word of mouth soliciting. We've been getting online donations. We've been getting check donations. When the trailer got temporarily stolen, we got a significant amount of money that came in out of support for that. And every week we get calls from people asking how they can assist or support the work that we're doing. So one of the great things about our outreach program is it's now at the point where it's basically paying for itself and then some. And this is one of the things, and I talked about this in the State of the Church address. This is one of the things that I think is sustainable going forward. And this is one of the things that I want to expand. Because if we have an outreach program that's doing all this good in the community, and it is predisposing the community to like us, and it's self-sustaining, I want to double down on that. And one of the ways that you saw that happen this year was what used to be called the Wits program, it's now the Jolly Jamboree program. Stephanie, how many families did we end up supporting? Yeah, so we supported over 120 families this year. We were only scheduled to do about 75. And then what happens is because the folks that we work with know that we're so great, they come to us after the fact and say, hey, this family got in late, or this family missed out, or this family needs that. And of course we say yes. So that leads me into what is technically an old business item, which we might as well just check off the checkboard right now, which is the pod out there is staying through the end of February and then it'll be gone. That pod is currently containing a lot of the stuff that is left over from the Winter Blitz program. There's going to be a free shop on February 26th, which is essentially a way to clear out all the leftover stuff that we got in there. And Stephanie did have that in the bulletin. I forgot to mention it in the worship service this morning's announcement, but that's now. All right. Any questions about the budget? Lon? They're all going to be gone. Long term, we would like to potentially find a building of some sort, whether it's a temporary building that we set on site or otherwise. But long term, we'd like to have something more permanent where we don't have to pods sitting in the parking lot. One of the concerns that we have going forward is security. So the pod had the lock broken off of it a couple of weeks back. They opened it up, saw that it was full of clothes, and then just left. So hey, that was better than the trailer at least. But one of our concerns going forward is security, and we really haven't been able to put our thumb on why things keep getting broken into. I don't know if it's changing demographic for the community, or just kind of a sign of the times of people that are desperate and need. But whatever building we do have, we'll need to have at least some kind of camera system to catch it. Any other questions? Well, getting back to the budget specifically, any questions about the budget or anything? Fantastic. I would entertain a motion to approve the presented budget for 2022. Motion by Lana. Do we have a second? Motion by Maureen Stray, second. Is there any further discussion concerning the 2022 budget? So we are, Maureen already seconded the end, thank you. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Old business. So we're currently still operating council members short. We have 7, the Constitution calls for 8. Also, Susan McKinnon, who is currently vice president, is operating on extension. She technically ended her term as of last July, but has agreed to remain in the seat moving forward until we can find a replacement. So here's me laying a guilt trip on all of y'all. If you're interested in filling a seat in the council, please get a hold of me. We'd be happy to vote you in by extraordinary vote via email. I'm not necessarily going to press gang anybody today, but we do need to get back up to 8 council members, which we need 2 theoretically, so that Susan can finally retire from the council at some point. Okay, what else is on old business, Jeff? Yes. So Cheryl Ann, our admin of 35 years. Oh, wait, hold on, we did a comment. Sorry. Has there been any investigation about adding a filtration system to the HVAC, reduce risk of spread of pathogens per CDC recommendations? Come on, Jeff. The question was, has there been any investigation into potentially installing HVAC measures specifically to address pathogens in the sanctuary?
Good morning again. This is actually what I do for a living. I'm a registered mechanical engineer for the state of Oregon, specializing in HVAC and filtration. As such, I've been extremely busy the last couple of years, as you can imagine. We have looked into it a little bit. It would be relatively costly with not the best impact. And the reason for that is because we actually don't have a ton of air being moved based on the size of our space. So the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers recommends a 3-prong approach. One is increased outdoor air, one is increased filtration, and the other is separation of parties within the space. So we have separated people from the space, and as a result, we have a pretty low occupancy, and so the financial burden to add the filtration required didn't really seem worth it to us, but if that is something the congregation would like us to look further into and actually develop a plan for, we can absolutely do that. I mean, we're here to serve you, but it would be a rather costly addition just because of the layout of our system. If I were to wager, over $10,000. I don't see any questions on the chat.
But if the congregation is interested in that, that is something that we can continue to look into. And it was actually one person that we talked about back well, it would have been spring of 2021 was upgrading our HVAC system to facilitate going back in person better. But yeah, essentially our space is so stupid big that we don't move much air through the filters. But it's still something to look into if there's a will from the congregation. Thanks for that question, Dennis and Jackie. So Cheryl Ann's retirement party, are you still interested in doing it? She retired 2 years ago. Here was the thought that we had, was simultaneously doing a retirement party for Cheryl Ann and just kind of a celebration of the congregation for the last couple of years. I actually checked in with her about this and she was like, yeah, I guess it's kind of weird, but if y'all wanted to throw a party, I wouldn't say no. So kind of the idea that we're tossing around right now is doing something that we begin in the summer so that we could potentially have it outside. Does that seem like a fun idea? Okay, great. I'll put the wheels in motion. Cool. That concludes the old business, new business. So I already mentioned the mask mandate stuff. So like I said, the state's saying end of March, they will be getting rid of the mask mandates. One of the things that we have to think about as a congregation is how do we feel about it? So what I'll be doing is sending out a poll via mail all of y'all as to your comfort levels, wearing masks, not wearing masks. going forward. Now, realistically, at some point, we just, won't have a lot of, shall we say, with all the state mandate there behind us, the push to mandate them for use inside, like lessons. However, here's the one thing that I wanna put out there is that I just want to make sure that whatever we decided to do is that if a person wants to attend worship, but feels comfortable, more comfortable wearing a mask, that there isn't any sort of shade being thrown in any direction. I want to make sure that when we return, as we're returning to in-person worship, no matter what it looks like, people are comfortable in space. And I think that's a priority for us going forward. So, any questions or comments about that stuff? Okay, I know it's the Super Bowl is pressing upon us. I'm serious. When I looked at it this morning and I was like the Bengals and the St. Louis Rams, I legit thought there you go. Point in case in point. I thought that I had time traveled back to 1996. I already mentioned the Janitorial Contract. I already mentioned council members. I already mentioned the storage pod. I feel like there was one bullet point that I oh, here. So again, we spent the last 2 years in and out of quarantine in one form or another. We actually have council members that have joined the council during quarantine. And so going forward, we just want to re-encourage folks. If you have a question or you just want to reach out to somebody connected to church, we published a full list of the members of our council. They are there for you to answer questions that you have, or just if you've got any concerns about what's going on with the church or budget or any of those things. Don't hesitate. Can our council members that are present please raise their hands? You know Jeff, we got Susan McKinnon, Linda Steele, Joe Solee, Dave Jenks in the back, and then we've got Mike Hinkle. I'm circling my finger around his face on the screen right now. He was attending virtually. Yeah, it's not a sign of the times, right? Yes, please go, Jeff.
I just wanted to add to that the last 2 years have been really trying for the council, and we've been really focused on keeping the church healthy and operational. As such, there's undoubtedly things that have slipped through the cracks and things we're not aware of. So when I say please reach out to us, I really do mean it. You're not bothering us. I mean, we're happy to hear complaints or problems. We want to see you. We're here to serve you. We want to see this church thrive and improve. So by all means, do not hesitate to reach out to us.
Yep. Yeah, I can answer that directly. Yes, we are in the works of doing the directory. It's one of those things that's really hard to do when we're not in the building. So now that we're back in, yeah, that's one of our top priorities, getting that done, because it is a pain in the butt to try and call folks and get number disconnected. Any other questions, comments, items of business? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Motion by Captain Olson. Do we have a second? Second by Al Stray. It's amazing how we get motions to adjourn the meeting so much faster than everything else. Thank you to everybody who tuned in via Zoom. And Jeff, do you want to, well, pause. So let's adjourn together, closing with the Lord's Prayer. All right, so please stand as you're able. Zoom folks, feel free to join in if you like. The Lord be with you. Let us pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. All right. The meeting is adjourned. Go Rams or Lions or whoever. Thanks, Zoom folks.